Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we are currently here over Drew, and we are in a intercept trajectory to go out to the gas giant. So let's just go ahead and do exactly that. Let's just fast forward for now until we exit the sphere of influence of Drew. There we go. And of course, I want to set Atraitus for now as our target. We can see our closest approach info is giving us 651 megameters, so maybe we should do a small corrective burn here, we would need to turn the sensitivity way down. Okay, that's a little too down. Maybe like here. Okay, yeah, that's much better. And we would have this just dial in to be approximately 500 megameters. Yeah, something like that. So that looks pretty okay. That's going to be 21.7 meters per second, a 2-second burn. Let's go ahead and execute that. So it's just a very small corrective burn here. And that's going to bring us down to 500 megameters for now. We could definitely make this a lot more efficient, but for the moment, I think this is reasonably fine. And the way that we would make this more efficient would be that we would just aim to land in the sphere of influence of Miros on the way in here. But I'm not going to try that right now. We're just going to warp on up over here, and let's get into position. There we go. We're full on battery, of course, which we would expect at this point. And let's get ourselves into the SOI. There we go. So this is still an experimental craft at this point. I want to definitely make that clear, and I want this to be a planned burn at the periapsis. So how much is this going to take to get us circularized? So that's going to be about here. That's actually not so bad. That's not so bad at all. 1.28 kilometers per second. Now, what we've got left in this stage is 866 meters per second. That's enough to get ourselves into orbit, for sure. But we're going to have to do some pretty major changes on our inclination and such. So that's going to be a bit spicy. We can get about 2/3 of this burn completed on this tank, but then things are going to get real spicy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this for now. And what we need right now is tech points in order to actually solve the problems that this craft has. It's a tech issue. It's not a fundamental design issue at this moment. So that'll be absolutely fine. We're just being a little too ambitious with this right now, is the takeaway. So let's just get this burn completed. That'll be roughly a 2-minute burn, but we're not going to get this fully complete. So that is fine. So let's just get ourselves into roughly this position here, slowing ourselves on down. So that all looks good for now. An inclination change is definitely going to be a thing we're going to want to do, and then we can spiral ourselves down like we had talked about before. It's going to be a little bit more efficient in terms of how long we can burn, which is going to be a useful thing for sure. But let's go ahead and ditch this engine now. And look at that sweet thrust to weight that we've got here. And by that, I mean almost none. Almost none. So if we head in over here, we can look at the battery right now, and this is the battery pack here. So we can see we're definitely draining power, and we're draining power at a pretty appreciable rate. No doubt about that. So we're now in low accuracy here, and that's to be expected. So this is a 17-hour burn at this point, and the real question is, how long of a burn time do we have in this? Well, we've got 11.56 days of burn time in this. This stage alone has 7 kilometers per second in it, if we can access it. That's the core issue right now, because we're very limited on our solar panel technology. So we can see each of these only producing roughly 50 watts right now. This one's probably not producing much at all. Actually, it's also producing about 50 watts. So that's fine. It's about 200 watts of production. We are consuming way more than that. This is each one of these is utilizing 245 kilowatts. That's very significant. This is very energy intensive. Right? We need large amounts of electricity to make this system function, and we just don't have the technology in our solar panels to be able to do that right now. We will get there. We'll make our solar panels a lot more fancy, but as of right now, we just don't have the capability of doing that. So we can see we are slowing down, but it's very slow. Our thrust to weight this high out is 0.35. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to burn us until we burn out our electricity here. And we can see that this is making an appreciable change here. So that's good to know. And there's our electricity burned at this point. So let's get rid of this planned burn. And now what I want to do is I want to plan another burn at the periapsis here. And we're still interested in bringing this down to a rough circularization. So that'll be something around here. So this is now showing that we're going to need 386 meters per second to do that, and this burn will begin in approximately 20 days. So until then, we're going to want to recharge as much as we can, right? So let's take an orbit around, and let's see how much we get done. That is not much. That's about what I expected to see happen. Okay, so we're going to burn out a battery pretty quickly here. That's for sure. No doubt about that. But at least we're going to get a little bit done with it. Okay, so we can just continue to do repeated passes like this, and we're out of energy at this point. So that is understood. We can see that we're at 875 megometers. We got maybe like 3 meters per second out of that. But what we can do is we can set our target. If I can select it, it's very small. We can set our target to be Juno. And then we can point at target, which will increase our, hang on, this is lock target. There we go. That'll increase our efficiency to whatever our peak efficiency currently is. So yeah, you can see we're currently getting not a lot, but it is slightly higher efficiency. And then we can just cruise on around. This is charging up at a mediocre rate, that's for sure. Oh, that's very dizzying. Let's not do that. Okay, there we go. So we are now full up, and that looks good. So now, of course, what we need to do is we need to head over to Atraitus, and we need to come to... Well, actually, I'm wondering, where is our ascending and descending nodes? We have an ascending node right here. Okay, so we know that this should have an inclination of 0, and we currently have an inclination of 15. So we definitely need to bring that right on down. And that's going to be, I believe that we should probably be targeting somewhere around 30 meters per second here with a full charge. So if we did that, that would be 1.35 hours of burn time. I'm going to put this at 50. I don't think we're actually going to get 50 meters per second out of this, but let's see how that goes. Commence burn. Okay, burn is commenced. And at this point... Yeah, we're not going to get 50 meters per second out of it. We got 56% of that burn done. Okay, so 50 meters per second times 0.56. 28 meters per second. That is roughly where I expected to be, given our increased battery amount. So we can do 28 meters per second per pass. This is going to be a tedious one, but the idea here is we just need to get this done, and then we can put our tech points into solar panels, because we're going to get a bunch of tech points for doing this. So that's the overall concept at this time. And hang on. Yeah, auto burn not achievable. That's understood. I wanted to build up our battery power. There we go. So we're just going to have to do this very tediously for this one, and then we'll fix this going forward, is the idea. So now we are in this position here, and I want to... It looks like we're going to be still going around to the ascending node. Okay. And we can do this at negative... I'm going to do 30. So it's going to be something like that. So 30 meters per second, and this is going to be moving us towards that correct inclination. But we've got a ways to go here, right? If we want to actually get to the correct inclination, then this is going to be like... This is going to be like 517 meters per second to get to the correct inclination here. I mean, that's pretty significant. No doubt about that. So we know that we have way more fuel than we need for this in here. I'm wondering if maybe just for the sake of time, we should use that MLI command to be able to burn without energy. Just for the sake of time, because we could do this in many, many, many passes. We know this is going to take 514 meters per second, right? So 514 divided by the 28 meters per second that we know we get per pass, we would need 18 passes just for the inclination change. Then after that, and I want this back at 0 degree inclination here. Okay, so back here, we know that's going to be 19 passes in order to get that done. Then we could come up over here, right? And at this periapsis at that point, then we would want to bring this in. Hypothetically, what we'd really want is to have it be just something like this. But assuming that we did it at peak efficiency, and this timing is not at peak efficiency, right? But assuming that this was at peak efficiency, that alone would be 1.24 kilometers per second. So 1.24 kilometers per second divided by... Or actually, I need to do 1,240 divided by 28. That would be about 45 passes. Okay, I think I've made my choice, and that is we're going to, for the sake of time, use MLI in order to have this happen. That is not going to be like 60 passes of this, right? Because that's going to take an incredibly long amount of time. And I don't think anybody wants to sit through that. I don't want to. I don't think you want to. So we'll just have the knowledge that in the background, we had to do this like 60 times in order to get where we needed to go at this point. Now, we knew that this would be a significant issue, that power flow would be a significant issue for this, and we knew that this solution that we have here isn't a real quote-unquote solution. So this is going to be 60-some passes. I'm going to invoke the command MLI. We're not going to be consuming any of this xenon, but that's okay. We have like 7 kilometers per second here, and we know that what we actually need is much closer to 2. It's like 1.7 kilometers per second to do that. So that's what I'm going to do for now, and we're going to warp on up over here, and we're going to get started on this burn, which is going to be a 22-hour burn. And just for the sake of time, we're going to do it this way so that we aren't going to actually be... I believe we are actually going to consume the xenon, now that I think about it. In KSP, we wouldn't consume the xenon, but the way that MLI works in Juno New Origins, from what I can tell, is that it will drain until it's empty, but then it'll keep firing no matter whether you have it or not. So this will actually drain our xenon, and we can keep an eye on our xenon. I forgot about that. Okay, so that's definitely good. So we can just keep in the back of our minds that this is going to be, you know, like 60 to 70 passes. And for the sake of time, we're just going to do this. Obviously, this is a problem that needs to be solved. There is no doubt about that. But we can go at about 500x here, and we can see we're draining this battery. As soon as this battery drains, it should still be firing with that cheat on. Again, this is just a time save. But we should still be draining the fuel here in our xenon tanks, and we are indeed. So that is absolutely phenomenal. Let's go to about 2500x here. Let's crank this on down. Okay, so we're currently at about 10 hours of burn time remaining. Now we're at about 6 hours of burn time remaining. We're going to be turning this down very shortly here. Okay, speed decreasing. We are still at about 40 minutes of burn time here. Okay, down to 100x. Okay, I'm taking this down to real time. We've got about 25 seconds of burn time remaining here. So our current inclination is what? Well, we'll find out here in a moment. We'll just let this finish up, and we're going to definitely want to recharge our battery. There's no doubt about that, but this is definitely a much closer inclination. It's probably close enough. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, and 0. Look at that. We just burned for 22 hours. I don't think these numbers are accurate because we just burned for 22 hours and we're at 98%. We were definitely draining from this because it went from 99 to 98. So I don't know how accurate those numbers really are. So at this point, what we need to do is we need to figure, since we're still going to play this as if we have the mini passes, we need, but we're just not doing the passes for the sake of time. We need to make sure that we don't assume that we're going to be able to do this all in one go. So that means that we need to come down to the periapsis and we need to encapsulate this something closer, but not actually set up in such a way that this would be an encounter, right? So this would be something like this. So we'd bring this down over many passes. This is about 1 kilometer per second. So this would be like 20-ish passes, I think. Hang on, let me do the math here. It'd be like 4 per 100. So it'd be like 40 passes. This would be like 43 passes. A little bit less. I was assuming 25 per pass, but something along those lines. So let's go ahead and run this burn, which that's going to be a roughly 2-day burn. And we'll keep an eye on this number here. Maybe this is accurate. It might be. But for now, let's take this up to a pretty hefty burn here. This doesn't appear to be changing. It doesn't appear to be changing at all. Okay, that's fine if it doesn't. We know that we have more than enough xenon to do this. This is just a time save, so that is absolutely fine. Yeah, these numbers are definitely not changing. The game is very confused at this moment, it seems. Okay, well, let's bring this right on down. My main concern is and has always been capture velocity here. So that's going to be quite a concern. We're going to need to bring this down, and then we're going to do another time save burn because this would be another large number of passes here. But we're going to need to encapsulate this orbit is what needs to happen now. Okay, so we're currently at about 5.2 minutes left in this burn. And let's just continue warping through this at a reasonable speed. 30 seconds left. 20, 10, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. And because of just how long these burns are, it's not the most efficient in the world. It would definitely be more efficient if we were burning something with a little higher thrust to weight. But that's understood. Yeah, these numbers definitely didn't change after a 2-day burn. We're still showing 2.41 and 98, so maybe this isn't actually draining xenon. Or maybe the game is just very confused about how much we have. I don't know. Either way, we know we had enough. There's no doubt about that. So we come to the periapsis here, and this guy we're going to want to pretty much circularize at about 200 here, like that. So 979 meters per second for that one. And actually, this is pretty okay here. But 978.5 meters per second here. This is another roughly 40 passes. It's going to be like something like 35 or so. So again, time save, right? So let's bring this on down. Accuracy is not recommended because of how low our thrust to weight is, and that's absolutely understood. We would do this over the course of many, many passes. But let's just go ahead and run this, and we'll get an approximation of this orbit, and that'll be absolutely fine. I wonder if what's happening here is it only drains the xenon if it has electric charge. That would actually explain a lot of what's happening here. Regardless, we know for a fact we had enough xenon, so this is fine. We obviously need to fix this problem going forward. There's no doubt about that one. Okay. I'm just looking at our current positioning here compared to our progress in this burn. That's interesting. We may want to stop this burn, which I'm going to do, and start up another burn down here at the periapsis. So this is going to be bringing this down to 200 megometers, or something kind of like this. Sure. Go ahead and execute that burn. So we're now taking a second pass at this one, but in reality, this would be somewhere around 40 passes. Incredibly tedious. If I were to do that on camera, that would end up being probably something like 10 episodes to do all of this. So I think as long as we're cognizant of the fact that it would take that long, I think it's fine. So we'll bring this right on down, and we'll position ourselves here. But yeah, I think that's what's going on with our xenon. Again, we have more than enough xenon to make this all happen, right? So I'm deeply unconcerned about that. Now, if we were to go for a rendezvous here, the question is, how much delta V would that end up costing? Okay, so our budget for this rendezvous needs to be much closer to, well, 28. So we're going to need to choose our timing on that pretty carefully. But what I want to do is, we know that this is somewhere around 150 megometers. So I'm going to bring this up to about 160. And we're going to enter into an elliptical orbit here. So this is going to be another very long burn time. And we're just spiraling our way inward. And we would be doing this on a much grander scale without MLI. So we'd take a bunch of orbits, and then we'd do a pass lowering our orbit by 28 meters per second, and then do a bunch of orbits, and so on and so forth. This is not, like I said, a solution to the problem, what we have on our craft right now. The real solution to this problem is tech, which we currently do not have. So that is understood. We should definitely speed through this particular burn. So we'll do something like this. And we're going to look to roughly circularize here, and we're probably going to have to take a bunch of orbits for this to line up correctly, but that was always going to be the case. With this sort of an approach, it's going to always be a slow and steady sort of thing, right? So that is understood. At the periapsis here now, I want to bring this down to roughly 160. The main problem here, of course, and let's exit this warp for the moment. The main problem here is we're a little off on our encapsulation. So we're going to need to toss in a little bit of, well, this. Little bit of radial here. Something like that, and then we bring in, actually not quite like that. It would need to be something like this out over here. And then a little bit of retrograde probably, and then a little less radial, and it would end up being something kind of like that. Okay, so we're going to be in a very, very similar orbit, but let's go ahead and get that started. Okay, so it's going to be something like this, and that's not going to be perfect, I'm betting, because accuracy is not going to be great, but it's good enough. This is definitely good enough. Okay, let's get that burn finished up. Looks good. Okay, from here, it's going to be a number of orbits, right? But if we were to plan a burn, hypothetically, here, and we just dropped this down, that's 36.9 meters per second. So, why are we spinning? Can we not? Thanks. Okay, I don't know what was up with that. But this is currently 36.9 meters per second. That is much closer to being viable. Now you can see our timing is pretty off. So we're going to have to take at least a few orbits. It's probably going to be a lot of orbits until our timing is much, much better. So what I'd really like to do is I'd like to plan a burn somewhere around here. So that's about 32 meters per second there. Okay, that's starting to get in the range of what we can perform. My main concern remains relative speed. Relative speed is absolutely a concern, but let's go ahead and warp here for now. We need to do a number of orbits until we're lined up. The question is, what number of orbits is that? It's going to be quite a lot. We're in a very, very similar orbit. This is interesting, though. That means that we might be able to plan a burn here and dial that in a little bit. Somewhere around here. Okay. Interesting. Interesting indeed. So this is a timing issue right now. But that gets us an encounter there. Definitely not an ideal encounter, but it does get us one. Show encounter info, please. Thank you. And then we can just bring this guy out a little bit. I wonder. I feel like this is a little bit better, like that. So we push it out over there, but that's 125 meters per second. So this is still a timing issue here. We do get an encounter here, but what we really want is one with us at the periapsis, right? So that's still going to be a bit of a timing issue for sure. This is not necessarily ideal. And then the problem does come in of breaking burn. So I'm going to give this another couple of orbits. It's going to start getting pretty close here. Yeah, we're definitely starting to get close here. So then if we were to bring this down something like that, right? We might have overshot it. Let's give it another orbit, and let's see what this feels like. But I can just continue doing this basically forever. Okay, yeah. I think it just wasn't perfect timing. So let's take this around again. We can continue doing this and find ourselves a reasonable encounter. The issue is, and probably will remain, that of a breaking burn, right? So we're going to have very, very big concerns about that. But we can find ourselves an encounter here. It's just going to be a matter of getting the timing right. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Andy McGard, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.